It's Monday and it's time for another Search with Candour podcast. My name is Mark Williams-Cook and today I'm joined by the Grand Master of Ads, Mr. Rob Lewis.
Hello.
And today we've got a bumper PPC episode for you. This is episode 19 of the Search with Candour podcast, recorded on Friday the 19th of July 2019, and we have a PPC Bonanza episode for you where we're going to be talking about Google's €2.42 billion fine for shopping ads and what that means for you. And we're going to be doing a deep dive into the major changes they've made to their automated bidding, which is very likely to affect you. It hasn't been spoken about much at the moment, and Google's only been emailing people about it. On the 27th of June 2017, so we're talking over a couple of years ago now, the European Commission fined Google a whopping €2.42 billion for breaching EU antitrust rules. And they were saying Google has abused its market dominance as a search engine by giving an illegal advantage to another Google product in its comparison shopping service. Commissioner Margrethe Vestager, who's in charge of competition policy at the time, said, "Google has come up with many innovative products and services that have made a difference to our lives. That's a good thing. But Google's strategy for its comparison shopping service wasn't just about attracting customers by making its product better than those of its rivals. Instead, Google abused its market dominance as a search engine by promoting its own comparison shopping services in its search results and demoting those of competitors. What Google has done is illegal under EU antitrust rules. It denied other companies the chance to compete on the merits and to innovate. And most importantly, it denied European consumers a genuine choice of services and the full benefits of innovation." We know Google Ads is obviously massively important to Google as a company, with numbers around 90% of their revenue, as we discussed before, coming from these ads. And we've just been told in the last few weeks that Google is confirming, as part of this ruling, they're no longer going to be giving customer support for Google shopping ads. And moving forward, they'll only be offering kind of what they call best practice guidance. So Google issued this statement. So originally, actually, they were emailing Google partners, and when we're having our monthly calls with Google, saying we're now stopping this support. But Google also issued this statement saying, following the European Commission's June 27th, 2017 decision, Google has made shopping ads on Google general search result pages in the EEA and Switzerland equally available to all qualifying comparison shopping services. This is directly impacting the support model for shopping ads. Our team and shopping teams are no longer able to provide support for shopping campaigns. This includes any optimization, implementation, and product feed troubleshooting relating to shopping campaigns. From now on, we are only able to share best practices and new product information for shopping. So, Rob, I think that this seems like it would have, I guess, probably the most impact on SMEs who maybe aren't using agencies at the moment, where perhaps they don't have Google Shopping or Google Ads experts, or maybe they don't have technical teams who understand the ins and outs of the feed implementation. I mean, what do you think the impact's going to be here?
I think there'll be quite a big impact in terms of having a lack of technical support is going to be a problem. I mean, there's been times where I've had to speak with Google's technical support team in order to fix an issue for which there was no documentation because it had just never come up before. There's always something really unique and niche that causes a feed to stop working, that requires Google to investigate the issue and come back to you. That's happened to me so many times, and quite often it's an error on Google's part where their automated systems have incorrectly marked a feed as non-compliant. And it does happen. And in all of those cases, I've had to speak to someone at Google to get the issue investigated, and for them to well, usually they fix it their end, or they tell me what I need to do to fix it my end. And there's always technical things that can be fixed your end as well. But I guess without having that support, it will be a problem. So for us as an agency, it's not the end of the world, because we've got many years' experience of these things happening, and we can draw upon our previous experiences of when things go wrong and fixing them. But I guess, as you say, for SMEs, it may be a problem. There is always an issue with a product feed at some point. At least once a year, every feed will get a nasty warning from Google to say that it's non-compliant for one reason or another. It does happen, and a lot of the time it's due to Google misinterpreting the information that you've got there, and its automated systems flagging it as a problem when it's not. But in most cases, that can be fixed by speaking with Google. So
is that always necessary? I mean, again, as an agency, we have a luxury, which is that we have a direct contact with Google for this. And again, that's not going to be something all SMEs have, is it? They're not going to have this person that deals with their account all the time. So, and it's probably only going to increase the volume at which people are going to need to contact Google.
I would say so. And one of the things that's worth mentioning about Google shopping feed disapprovals is that when your feed has been flagged as non-compliant, they normally give you a 30-day grace period to fix it. And it used to be that once you fixed it, you contact them, it will be manually reviewed, and then they'll come back to you with anything that needs changing. They actually changed it last year so that from now on, when you fix your Google shopping feed, you don't tell Google to take another look at it. They just say after the grace period of 30 days, someone will look at it and someone will confirm whether it's acceptable or not. If it's not acceptable, it will get shut down.
Okay, so that means that potentially you could fix an issue, I guess, in that 30 days, or rather believe you fixed an issue.
Absolutely.
And you have to wait until the end of the 30 days.
Yes.
And then there's no extra grace period on if you've done it wrong, it just gets switched off.
Go, nope, that's wrong, switch it off.
Okay.
And then you have to go through other channels. I don't know what's going to happen with those channels if they're removing all technical support. I'd like to think that there will at least be some skeleton crew, so to speak, that will manually review the policies. But by the wording in the statement they've given, it suggests that there's not going to be any guidance to do so, specifically for things that fall outside the best practice or that isn't, for whatever reason, covered in the standard documentation.
And is this looks like from the statement it's effective immediately? Is that right? It just says, it says...
That's what it looks like, yeah. I mean, they haven't made an official statement as yet. I think they've only just been contacting agencies to tell them about it. So I have no more information on that at the moment.
Okay. So takeaways?
Make sure your shopping feed is compliant, because the last thing you want is one of those nasty Google emails warning you that it isn't compliant. And also just make sure you've got access to someone who has experience working with feeds. You might be using a plugin for your feed. You may have approached someone to create a feed, or you may have created the feed yourself using Google Sheets or some other type of spreadsheet. All of that's fine. Just make sure that whoever's managing it is keeping an eye on it and has the ability to edit it quickly if it needs an update. The last thing you want is your shopping feed to be shut down during your busiest time of year.
Automated bidding. So this is interesting. I mean, I love talking about automated bidding anyway. One of my interests, as you know, is the whole AI side of things. And me and Rob and I have got differing opinions sometimes when it comes to automation strategies. But this is a really interesting bit of news we've had, because this is something, again, I believe Google is just they haven't put out, I haven't found anything that they've put out about this publicly yet, which is that they have made a fairly substantial, I think it's right to say fairly substantial update to their automated bidding algorithm. I mean, do you want to just take us through that, Rob, the changes? When actually, first it'd be helpful maybe just to talk about, for those that maybe aren't using them or are a bit rusty, about automated bidding strategies, what's available and what they're used for.
Sure. Okay. Well, typically when you're managing a pay-per-click account, you'll have two immediate options. One is to automate your bidding strategies, and the other is to manually control them and set your own bids. And there is also, just to be pedantic, somewhere in between where you can manually manage your bids, but add some element of automation in order to help.
That's the enhanced cost per click stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. So there are different types of automated bidding options that you can choose from. Some will be more relevant to advertisers than others. Just to give you a brief overview of the main ones. The first one, and it's normally the one that Google pushes for you to use when you set up a new campaign, is the maximize conversions bidding strategy. Now, the way that works is that Google will try to spend your entire daily budget and do so to get you as many conversions as possible.
That sounds like a good thing on the surface.
Yeah, maybe. So just to put that into perspective, let's just say you have a £100 or $100 per day budget. Google will do everything it can to spend that budget in order to get you as many conversions as possible. Now, it might be that in any given day you would only get one conversion. Google doesn't really care. It wants you to get that one potential conversion, but at the expense of spending £100. That might be really good if you're not too concerned about the costs per acquiring that conversion.
So if you're just trying to grab market share, for instance, and you're not that worried.
Yeah, if you know you've got a daily budget of £100 and you just want to get at least one lead or as many leads as you can every day out of it, and you're not too focused on the cost per that conversion, maximize conversions is fine. So that's something to consider. The next one that relates to automated bidding and conversions is target CPA, which stands for target cost per acquisition, which is slightly different to maximize conversions because you tell Google what you want your average cost per conversion to be, and it will do everything it can to meet that. And I suppose this is better for lead generation campaigns where you know that each lead is worth a certain value, and you know that that lead is only going to be profitable if it's no more than a certain amount of money for you to acquire that. So, for example, you might want to set your target cost per acquisition to £20 per lead, knowing that most leads are worth several £100s and that you close X number of leads that you receive. So target CPA is a good way of, I guess, having some kind of expectation as to whether or not the lead is going to be profitable for you. The next one is target ROAS, or target return on ad spend, which is slightly similar to target CPA, except it looks at the actual revenue figure. So this is for e-commerce advertisers that are focusing on sales, specifically sales that they want to make sure they generate a profit for. So in such circumstances, you don't really look at the cost per conversion. The cost per conversion is an important metric, but actually it's whether or not that conversion is generating a profit for you.
So would this be, if you're selling a range of products, some are £5 and others are, £500?
Yeah, absolutely. You might be happy to, let's just say your average cost per conversion is £10, but you have a specific product that sells for £1,000. You might be happy to sell that at a cost per conversion of £50 because you know you're going to get a good return on ad spend from it. So target ROAS, you set a percentage. You might say I want a target ROAS of 500%, and Google will do everything it can to get you that figure. Another one that they're pushing a lot lately is target impression share, which is slightly different. It doesn't really factor in conversions per se. Instead, what it does is it allows you to choose an ad position that you want to achieve, such as the absolute top position or somewhere in the top 3 or 4 ad positions, and choose a percentage of time that you want to appear in that spot. So if you wanted to appear 100% of the time for specific keywords in the absolute top position, you could set it to 100%, and Google would do everything it can to ensure that you achieve that position. Of course, another automated bidding strategy is maximize clicks, which doesn't focus on conversions or anything. It just does everything it can to use up your budget and generate as many clicks from that budget as possible. So there's lots of different automated bidding strategies.
So where does manual bidding fit in 2019? Because a lot of these sound great. So, is there still a place, do you think, currently and in the future for manual bidding?
In my experience, yes. Automated bidding still can't always reach the results that a manual bid can achieve, and there's various reasons for that, and that's such a long conversation to have. I can talk for a long time as to why. It might be worth talking about the actual update itself to the algorithm, and then I can come back to that.
Okay, let's do that then.
Okay, so historically, Google's automated bidding strategies, the ones that focus on driving conversions, historically, they relied on historic conversion data in order to optimize your bids. So it would look at conversions for the last 30 days, and it would see where those conversions came from, and it would build on it, and it would update the bids in order to try and get more of those conversions.
So it's just using your old existing data to basically train a model of this is what's working.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if certain keywords showed that they consistently drove conversions and someone typed in a search query that matched that keyword, Google would say, okay, well, historically that search query has performed well, so I'll increase the bids on that and reduce the bids on the searches that haven't. So thus it removes the manual need for you to manage those bids. Now, in the past, you had to have a certain amount of conversions in your account in order for those bidding strategies to be available to you. Now, Google have just confirmed, in fact, I'll read out the statement that they've given to us. They've confirmed that the algorithm has had a core update at the account level. And they have said, we are using new algorithms at account level based on audience signals from all advertisers within the same vertical.
Wow.
And they also confirmed that you no longer need conversion history in order to use those bidding strategies. So just to step back for a moment, you can set your bidding strategy to maximize conversions or to target CPA or target ROAS without having any historic conversion data, because Google is going to look at a range of signals and it will determine the intent of the user in order to decide which searches it should increase bids for and which it should reduce bids for.
So actually they're kind of taking all what will likely be competitors' data, aggregating it, sticking it in a black box and using that intelligence to help you optimize a campaign.
Absolutely. I think it's a great step forward that they're looking at signals from other advertisers.
I guess it lowers the bar. Sorry to interrupt. I guess it lowers the bar in terms of, when we speak to new clients or people who are just starting paid search, one of the biggest hurdles I see for new businesses who want to do paid search is that their competitors have maybe been running ads, say, for 2 years. So they know which keywords work, they know which ads work, they know which landing pages work. They've optimized their cost per sale, cost per click. So it's a huge investment sometimes just to buy yourself the intelligence so you can compete on that level, because from a fresh entry, you're not really competing with those PPC veteran companies, are you? You're basically buying some intelligence so you can get to the stage where you compete. So this kind of shortcuts that in a way. If Google's saying we will use some of that data to work out what's going to work for you, you're kind of taking investment. Google's giving you some of that investment from other people.
You could look at it even deeper, actually, and say that for all this time, Google has been getting all the other advertisers to figure out what works best. And that information has now become available for it to just completely automate everything and say, okay, moving forward, a fully automated bidding strategy based on what has worked for every single advertiser before that earned conversions. Just press go. We'll automate everything because this is what's worked for our worldwide advertisers that use the Google Ads platform.
And that's information, obviously, they're never going to share with companies or be able to share because of privacy reasons, which is good because it's convenient because obviously you can resell it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the entire thing, I think it's a great step forward, first of all. It's also an interesting one because historically Google has said that its conversion bidding algorithms for automated bidding already use lots of signals and didn't just rely on conversion data. So in my personal opinion, which doesn't reflect any agencies for whom I work, to make clear, my personal opinion is that the update is now changing the bidding algorithm to how it always should have been and how I would have always have wanted it to have been, which is a user-focused approach, one that looks at the intent behind the search and doesn't just look at historic conversion data. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what positive impact it hopefully has on automated bidding strategies that we're using at the moment. And you said that, Mark, that you and I sometimes have different thoughts and feelings about automated bidding. So I've always been very much of the opinion that if it's Google's automated bidding solution, it's probably the best one out there because it has access to so much data. And when it comes to non-Google affiliated tools, I mean, we get contacted a lot. I'm sure a lot of advertisers get contacted by non-Google affiliated tools that offer awesome automated bidding strategies. And I've used a few of these tools before just out of interest, and they're all targeted at the layperson. They're all about simplifying things, and generally speaking, they don't have access to the vast amounts of data that Google has. So I've always been very skeptical about using them for my clients' accounts. I'd much rather rely on Google's vast reams of data about its users.
I guess there's that balancing act of Google's definitely got the most data, which they won't be able to share with people who have third-party tools. But there's the motivation, I guess, which is maybe a third-party tool probably has a motivation closer to the client in that they want to make you money, so you keep using their tool. Whereas a lot of Google's moves we've seen, while they've had almost a halo positive effect, I'd say, on advertisers, the primary driver for their changes and actions is their revenue and their profit and their growth.
A very good point, yes.
Which is why, it's no secret within our industry, those that have Google account managers, it's a very common suggestion that to improve your Google Ads account, you should up your budget and increase your budget. That's a thread that comes up quite regularly when we speak to people at Google.
Yes, absolutely. And just to clarify, I've always been a proponent for Google's automated bidding strategies, but unfortunately, it has to be said, I've always got better results when I've controlled bids myself, particularly on the most important, crucial, traffic-heavy areas of a pay-per-click campaign. Google's automated bidding has never managed to match just human intellect, in my opinion. But not yet. Perhaps this change is the change that we've all been looking for, the one that's going to make it even better. I think it's moving in the right direction, because one of the things I've been seeing more and more over the last 10 years is that less keywords consistently convert. There's fewer keywords that comprise what I would call the core keywords, which comprise the vast majority of conversions for a client. It's now a wide range of various...
it's all the long tail stuff. It's what we're seeing in SEO as well, which is that, several years ago we would target, we'd pick some set of key phrases that represented a large proportion of our traffic, whereas now with the focus on, there's a lot more focus on basically writing better content now, and that's naturally becoming more diverse, and people are seeing that the traffic they're getting is more diverse in type in terms of the searches, because users are now being more specific with their searches, because I think it's we get better search results now.
Yeah.
When you're specific.
And everyone searches for their own, well, for what they need, which is unique to them. And Google, of course, personalizes the results for what they've previously searched for and makes assumptions as to what that person's going to be interested in. So the entire search results for everyone is unique to them. And just to use a really bad analogy, someone could Google the search query awesome sunglasses, see a pay-per-click advert for some awesome sunglasses, click on the advert and purchase those sunglasses. Whereas another type of person might type in exactly the same search, click on the advert, but not convert. So it's the intent behind the person who wrote that search query that matters. And that's what Google is trying to factor in with this latest algorithm. And it makes me ask the question, how important is the search query moving forward? Which, again, is probably a discussion for another day. But if the targeting that Google can come up with behind the intent of a user is so accurate, then we may get to the point where we can target people by their exact shopping wants and needs, regardless of what they're typing in, which is what Google's moving towards. And in theory, they've provided us with tools to do that now, but it's still not 100% accurate. So someone could type in mobile phone tariffs, but we could show an ad for sunglasses and they may buy those sunglasses because the intent targeting was so accurate.
Okay, so this is actually moving away from a keyword-led targeting to, I guess it's at the moment we're at the stage then where we're looking at keywords in context of intent. So to take your example of mobile phone tariffs, there might be intent as to whether someone's actually looking for a new mobile phone there or just doing a completely unrelated bit of research, because the search is unique to the user.
Yeah. Well, Google's new conversion algorithm should, in theory, factor in more of the intent behind a signal, and of course, it will look into historic performance amongst other advertisers, and it will then decide whether to bid high or bid low. So it's factoring in a lot more about the user rather than just the keyword, rather than just the superficial searches that we're bidding on.
So the big question here that we've skirted around, and I want to ask, is how long until we get to the stage then where we don't need PPC account managers?
Well, it's a difficult thing to answer. I'm put on the spot now. I think, personally, it depends how much control that Google allows the advertiser to have. If they provide all of this automation, but they also provide the means to override the automation and do what the advertiser thinks best, which I would like to think they do so, then I think there'll always be the need for an advertiser. There always needs to be a consultant that analyzes the data and decides where best to direct money, which numbers to influence in order to make the best long-term goals for each client. I mean, Google doesn't understand the goal. It doesn't understand the human aspect. It only understands the numbers. And if you focus too much on the wrong numbers, then things can sometimes go a bit haywire. So I'd like to think that there'll always be a need, but I guess that's down to Google, isn't it? And how much control they want the advertiser to have.
That is a really great answer, and I expect lots of PPC managers to repeat that verbatim to their boss. That's everything we've got time for in this episode. We will be back on July the 29th next. All of the show notes, links as usual, the transcription are available online at search.withcandour.co.uk. I'm Mark Williams-Cook. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will speak to you, hear from you, get your questions during the week, and we'll record another episode next Friday. See you later.